Hi and welcome. I'm Heidi, and we are coming towards the end of the Intro to Yoga series. You guys have done an awesome job, constantly building on more and more with every class we've done. We're moving on to the hip opener for this class. And what are hip openers? It really is just moving and getting some mobility and flexibility in the hips. And there is a difference between flexibility and mobility. Flexibility is when you add an external force and you find that end range of your joints. Mobility is when you can move those joints using the muscle and the connective tissue. So there is a little bit of a difference there, and we're going to be working on both. First of all, what I do want to explain to you is we do so much sitting throughout the day that it really tightens up our hips. So in our modern day life, sitting at a desk all day or driving a lot in the car, we are bringing the knee closer towards the hip, and that hip flexor muscle, which is the iliac psoas muscle, gets shortened, and over time it gets tighter and tighter, and it reshapes into this new shortened muscle as well as connective tissue. So you might feel like, you've been sitting all day and then you get up and you feel like that, that really hurts getting up. Yet your hip flexor muscles, these iliac psoas muscles, those are tight. And now these hip openers are really going to be helpful for that. Another thing that our modern life of sitting a lot does is that it reshapes the outer muscles on your outer hips here, with a lot of stretching because we're sitting all the time. So you also want to focus on rebuilding the strength in those muscles. Really, really important to keep all the other joints in our legs nice and safe as we move, is to make sure that we're stabilizing these muscles by keeping things open, but as well strengthening them. Another thing that I love to talk about with hip openers, there is a lot of talk about emotions that are with hip openers. You always hear you'll hear in a yoga class, you're on a half pigeon pose, and they're like, let it all go, let go of all the emotions. Why do we store all our emotions in our hips? Well, we have the diaphragm that sits right about here, below all our organs, and the diaphragm is what it's a muscle that pulls the air in and out. So when you fill up, it pulls that air, the diaphragm down so you can fill it up. And then when you exhale, it contracts and it fills and pushes all the way up into the lungs, and the air can come out. So when you're stressed, when you are anxious, when you are worried, you have a shortened breath. You breathe the whole time, right? You can feel that. So what happens is that diaphragm feels that same vibration, and that transfers all the way down into the hip muscles, everything around there. You get that same energy going down, and it holds on nice. It holds on tight, not nice and tight. You don't want it to hold tightly. And then when you see these big, long breaths in your hip openers, that's when you can start feeling that release. And sometimes people do get kind of emotional on hip openers, and sometimes you'll see people crying. Completely normal. It's on your mat. You can do whatever you like on your mat. So just let it all come out, breathe, and you will be supported. All right, we're going to get started. Child's pose. First hip opener, opening up those hips. Let's do this. All right, knees towards the edge of your mat, your big toes to touch. Bring the sit bones back down towards the heels or as far as they go. Remember, you can have them as high as you need them to be comfortable for you. We're going to walk your hands forward, and we're just going to settle here. And now with these hip flexor muscles and these hip openings that we're going to be doing, you really need to focus on your breath. And you want to release the tension, and we need to do that with the breath. So take a slow breath in through the nose, and open the mouth, let it out. Breath in through the nose. Pretend your mat is a mirror that you're fogging. Open your mouth side out. Same breath in through the nose. Audible breath out through the nose. Another breath in. And another breath out. Start walking your hands towards your knees. Bring your hands underneath the shoulders and then bring the knees underneath the hips. A few rounds of cat and cow. Warm up the spine. Inhale, arch. Exhale, hug it in. Dome in the upper back. Tilt the tailbone down. Belly button towards your spine. Chin towards your chest. Inhale, we lengthen the front of the body. We look forward. And exhale, we round the back. Chin into the chest. Tilt the tailbone down. One more time. Big breath in. Nice. You're going to curl the toes. Downward facing dog. Breath out. Let's take your dog for a walk. You're going to paddle your feet left to right, and you go as far as it feels good with you. Now, I'm having a little bit of an injury in my right hamstring, so I'm going to keep bending that right knee just to look after it today. Make sure that I'm honoring my body where it is today. You might even want to go a little bit into the side body too and get into those outer hips. You can do that as well. Just listening to your body, breathing here. Nicely done. All right, so let's send your right leg all the way up and back. Let's bend that knee and roll your hip open. Press equal pressure in both your hands and send your chest towards your thighs. Roll your right ankle. Nice, maybe on the other side. Beautiful. All right, let's increase that mobility in the hips by sending the right leg back and then squaring off the hips. We're going to use the muscles of the outer hip muscles to stabilize the hips and square them off. Do you see how that comes down there? Ooh, that's already burning and firing up the muscles there. Beautiful. And then bring the knee into your chest, squeeze it in. Send the right leg back. Think about right inner thigh up towards the sky so you can square off those hips using those mobility muscles around the joints to create that movement, that range of motion. Beautiful. Let's step that right foot forward into a moon pose. I'm going to bring that back knee down. Now, I absolutely love this pose because we're opening those hip flexor muscles that I talked about. We contract them so much. So now we're opening them. So tilt this tailbone down, hug the belly button in, firing up the hamstrings. And then I want to get a little deep in the stretch. So I'm going to send my right knee over my right toes, arms up to the sky. Big breath in here. Nice. And then bring your hands down. I'm going to take my blocks. You know how much I love my blocks that I always use. I'm going to send my hips back, coming into a half splits. Remember, I've got that tight hamstring issue going on right now, so I'm going to keep my right knee bent. But if it feels good in your body, you can straighten the leg out. Now, let's get a little bit of movement here. Again, a little mobility. Find that range of motion in the hips, so we just move the hips a little side to side. Yeah, feels good. Start understanding, what are the sensations that are coming up for you? You're learning about your body. All right, let's rebend that right leg. We're going to lift that back knee up. Again, I'm using the blocks. Curl your toes. Lift that back knee up. Now, again, use those outer hip muscles. You activate them by squaring off the hips there. Beautiful. So we're getting this opening in the hips as well as working out the outer hip muscles here. Take a big breath in. And I'm going to put my block on the highest setting so I can come into a pyramid pose variation that we did earlier. Squaring off those hips again. Mobility. We're seeing that right hip back, left hip point forward. Beautiful. Pressing my right foot into the earth and then shifting my hip weight back. Nicely done. All right, let's rebend that right leg. I'm going to bring the block down in front of me and I'm going to step it back. Downward facing dog. Exhale it out. Beautiful. Left leg goes all the way up and back. Breath in. Bend the knee. Roll the hip open. Breath out. Now, chest towards the thighs. Activate that right leg, the right quads. Roll the left ankle. Remember softening your neck here. You want to bring the shoulders away from the ears. Yes, beautiful. All right, let's square off those hips. Activate those outer hip muscles. Think about the inner thigh leg muscle helping to rotate the big toe to the sky, pinky toe to the ground. Hips are as squared as you can. Nicely done. Knee in towards the chest. Squeeze it in. Activating the core. Send it back again. Nice, strong, straight leg. breathing in. And as you breathe out, we're going to step forward into that moon pose, back knee down. Let's open the front of the body here. You're going to tilt that tailbone down, press down through the feet, and then lift on up, energy up, and soften the left knee down. Go to your end of range motion here. Where does it feel like, okay, this is it. This is where I need to be. And I'm going to stay right here. Keep tilting the tailbone down. Keep hugging the core in. Yes, beautiful. Hands down to the earth. I'm going to use that block. I'm coming into my half splits to get my hamstrings and my calves a nice little stretch here. Sending the hips back, collarbone forward, and I'm going to do this little side to side movement here. And I'll be very slow. Slow is the key here. Because then you can really find where is that end of that, just that limit of that range of motion that you have. And you'll feel it when you feel the sensation that's pulling and you're like, oh, okay. And then you'll feel like I'm just about to hit that pain part where it's going to start taking my breath away. And then you back out. And if you move slowly, that prevents injuries because you have time to react, time to listen, time to honor your body. All right, let's rebend that left leg, coming into that runners, so your back foot and lifting that back knee up. And now, boom, square off those hips. I'm activating my glutes, my outer hips, my hamstrings, pressing down through the earth with my feet, hugging my lower ribs in. Beautiful, nice and strengthening, stabilizing the hips, and then straighten that front leg, coming into that pyramid pose variation. Shift your weight back, square off those hips, nice long spine, big breath in here, and fold, exhale it out. Big breath in, inhale, and exhale. Alrighty, let's rebend that left leg. I'm going to move the blocks out of the way. Hands come down to the earth, downward facing dog. Remember, you can use those blocks for your down dog too. Whatever works for you. Breathe here. Nice. Now, come down onto all fours. We've got a little motion here and warming up in the hips. Now I'm going to show you the different hip openers that you would find in most yoga classes. All right, so first one is reclined pigeon. I would highly recommend doing this one if you have any knee issues whatsoever. Just lie down on your back rather than doing the half pigeon or the double pigeon that I'm going to be showing you in a moment. So you're going to lie down on your back and you're going to bring your left knee into your chest and then cross your left ankle over your right thigh. So you can sit right here. You're opening up through the hip. You always can take your hand too and place it just on your thigh. I would not take it into the knee and push down the knee. I'd rather just bring it here in the middle of your thigh and give it a nice gentle pressure. Now this is the flexibility. I'm adding external force to find my end of range motion right here. But if you would like to increase the mobility, you take your hand away and you let the left knee and you let that soft tissue and the muscles do all the work. Nice. All right. You can also interlace your hands and wrap it around the right hamstring. You can lift that right leg up. You could also not wrap your hands around the hamstring and just have it like that. Or maybe put your foot on a chair or a bed. What feels good for you? Keep setting this left knee and open again to your end of range where you feel that slight, beautiful, deep stretch, but not sharp pain. All right, let's bring that right foot down to the earth. Extend that left leg up to the sky and swap it. Nice. Right leg goes up. And we're going to cross it over. So let's stay here for a moment and just feel how it is. All right, maybe you're going to apply some extra pressure onto the right leg. Beautiful. And you keep breathing. You can even close your eyes. Bring all that awareness all around the hips and just noticing, really being present. All right, let's maybe interlace the hands around the thighs. Now, the key here, I have short arms, so I have to come all the way up, interlace my hands, And then I come all the way back down. You want to make sure that you're not up here like this. You do want to be chilled and relaxed. Because if you are contracting your muscles, you're telling your body, I'm not feeling safe here. And so it's still on alert and it's waiting for it to contract. And we want to get some deep, deep, deep relaxation here. We want those muscles to soften. We want the connective tissue to soften. Beautiful. Keep breathing here. Again, you add the straight leg, the bent left leg, the releasing the hands. That's completely up to you. Just one more breath in here and breath out. All right, bring your left foot down. Let's have right leg up to the sky and then bring the right foot down. Nicely done. Now let's get some mobility again in those hips, but lying down on your back, you're just going to move those knees side to side slowly. So you start noticing, where do you find the stretch? Like, where are you feeling it? And you keep going. And you go your far range as you can possibly go that feels good in your body. And then on the other side. All right, come back to center. Bring your hands around your hamstrings, and we're just going to rock yourself up to a seat. Nicely done. All right, next, we're going to get a little bit of, again, mobility in the hips. And so I'm going to face you. You're going to bring your feet pretty wide. I always like to do like the width of my mat. And what you want to work on doing is hands can be on either side, or you can bring your hands to your heart center. And I want you to bring the knees over to one side, looking over your left leg, and then over to the other side. And you just keep moving side to side. And this really works on, again, those muscles. We're opening up the hips, but we're using the muscles and the soft tissue to do the work. I am shifting off my mat, which you will start climbing forward. That's how this works. But you just get yourself back on the mat and keep going. Okay, just a few more like this. Really opening up through the hips. Nicely done. Okay. Now we're going to add we're going to move into half pigeon that I want to show you. And there's a few variations for this. I really like this one variation because anyone who doesn't want to do reclined pigeon and has knee issues, this is a phenomenal way to access half pigeon and protect your knees. So what you do here is you take your shin parallel to the front of the mat. You take your left leg back. Now here, I'm just going to have it look like it's 90 degrees, right? With my legs. That 90-90 variation that I just did where we moved from side to side. It's the same setup here. You're going to sit up nice and tall. Remember, always a lengthened spine. And then look over towards that right knee and then lean over. And now this is where you can grab a block. And you can just place your forearms down on the block. You can use a pillow. You can use your hands. You can come all the way down here. You really start accessing some parts of the hip joints and the muscles and the ligaments, everything that's connected around there. Start opening that up in this variation. And we're going to just stay here for a while, closing your eyes and breathing. Inhale and exhale. Breath in and breath out. Nice. And you slowly make your way up. Very important to always move with the breath in these hip openers. You want your body to relax. You want to start letting it get deeper and deeper. All right, and we're going to swap on over. I'm just going to face the other side. There we go. So we'll do the same thing here. Shin is parallel to now this time, the back of my mat. And then this time I'm going to show you a little different, that you do not need to keep that right leg bent. You can also send that leg back if that's what you have in your body, still leaning over your left knee that's in front of you and coming on down. Again, lengthen the spine, then come on down. Now for me, that is a little too much because you said I'm nursing a little bit of an injury, so I'm going to come back out, but I did want to show you that variation. So we're going to stay here. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to bring your awareness to that left hip. Think of left outer hip, inside the hip joint, inner thighs, the lower back. Just think of that whole area and where are you feeling these sensations? We are not all going to feel the same sensations. We all ask very different things from our body. We're also built very differently too. Nice. All right, slowly make your way up and bring your legs all the way over. You just cross your legs now and just take a moment to just notice how that feels and what sensations are coming up for you. Beautiful. All right, now we're going to move into a half pigeon. So half pigeon, I love to use blocks with this too, with some support. Again, if you have any knee issues, do not do half pigeon or double pigeon. Take care of your joints. We want you to be on your mat. You can keep moving, so you don't need to go and do these other poses if they don't suit the rest of your body, any other point, anything else that's going on. All right, so let's go into a downward facing dog for this one. You're going to bring your feet hip distance apart. You're going to spin your inner thighs to the back of the room. Move the shoulders away from the ears. Hug the shoulder blades in the upper back. And let's activate the core. Hug your belly button in towards your spine. Beautiful. Big breath in here. Big breath out. You're going to bring your right leg all the way up and back. You're going to shift your shoulders over your wrists, then bring your right knee towards your right upper arm. Take your right ankle and bring it across the mat. Bend your left knee and come on down. Now, you want to take that right knee and make sure it's at a 45-degree angle towards the edge of your mat. And then you want the left knee and the top of your left foot to be on the mat. So it's pressing down on the mat. It's not toes out, toes in. It's directly flat down. And then I like to walk my left foot back, and I can get really deep in this pose. So now when I first started yoga, I was all the way up here. And sometimes what I would do, I'd go and sit into it. We're not trying to sit into that hip. We are trying to keep the hip squared. And over time, you can start walking those feet, that left leg back. And then what tends to happen, as I said, this right hip wants to come down because it thinks it's going to get a deeper stretch. It does, but we're not trying to access that area. We're trying to get right into the outer hips, inner thighs, so square off those hips. Maybe even take a block and place it right here in this right outer hip here. And you sit up nice and tall so you can come up all the way up. It's a bit uncomfortable for me on this side, so I'll show you the block placement on the other side for your sit bones, but I like to use this block here in front of me, so then I can get even a deeper psoas stretch here in my hip flexor muscles and undo all that sitting that I've been doing a lot lately. So this feels really, really good. You got to keep engaging that core. We don't want the energy down. We still want energy up. Nice. All right. Let's bring the hands down, and we're going to do the other side. So both hands down, curl your back foot. Maybe you lift the back knee up, bring the right knee into the chest, and downward facing dog. And then be still for a moment here, noticing how you feel. How does one side feel different to the other? Nice. All right, left leg all the way up and back. Take a big breath in here. Shift the shoulders over the wrists. Bring the left knee in towards the left upper arm. Take your left foot and cross it over. Now this side I think you'll be able to see better where I do the placement of the block. All right, so I'm going to walk my feet back, my right leg back. Make sure the top of my foot is on the mat and the top of my knee. So I'm not in or out, right here in the center. I'm going to take this block and place it right here. And right there, I can stay. I can even come up a little bit more, getting deeper in that hip flexor muscle. But I can also come on down, maybe here, putting my forearms on a block. Maybe I just stay up here with my hands. It's completely up to you. Every day is something different for me. Like today, I really had to pull back in my practice today because I was feeling a little tired and my body was aching. I think I overdid it the day before. So you just listen to your body, wherever you may be. And I'm maybe going to come down a little bit more. I'm a little more open on this side, so I can come down on this side a bit more. You listen to what you need. I do want you to think about that left hip going back and that right front hip point coming forward and down. And we're just going to breathe here. So close your eyes. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Beautiful. Bring your left hand down, right hand down on the mat. Curl your back foot. You guessed it, downward facing dog. So think about using that core to lift the knee in towards the chest and down dog. Breathe here and just take a moment. Nice. All right, come onto all fours. I'm going to show you this double pigeon variation. I actually rarely use this one. I only started adding this in a lot later in my practice. You try it, see how it feels. Definitely have some blocks to support you. So what you want to do is bring your sit bones down onto the earth, sitting up nice and tall. Remember the rib cage over the hips. You should start noticing your core muscles firing up for you to stack that. All right, and then you're going to bring your right foot, cross it over like you did, for your half pigeon. And then you take your left and we do the same thing. Now the aim of this pose is to keep the sit bones down. So sometimes I see when I first started, I thought, oh, I got to do this, but I got my hip is up off this, not on the floor. So you want to bring this down. How do you do that? Well, maybe this foot slides here. Maybe you just cross. That's also good too. Another one that I love to do too for a nice hip and opener too is Supta Baddha Konasana, and maybe supporting your knees with the blocks. But I'm going to show you this double pigeon. So you bring one foot, have it flexed and a bit soft. Take the other foot, cross it over. And you want to just go just behind the knee so we're not putting too much of that passive external force on there and that flexibility of that range of motion in that right knee. All right, and then maybe you take this left hand and you place it down here just for a little bit more. Your knee might be up here and you might be a little bit round in the back. That's okay. I always like to take a block and I can just let it rest here between the two. And then I can sit up nice and tall and I can just breathe. I might also need a little support here as well. Oh, and that feels so good. And it just actually accesses a little different area. So even though you have that flexibility that you could do this without the blocks, I always challenge you to try it with the blocks because you'll feel a different sensation and you're like, oh, that's for me. That feels really good. All right, we're going to stay for just to say 3 rounds of breath, yeah? I want you to close your eyes and I want you to visualize the air going in through the nose, the chest, the belly, and all the way around the hips, and then you exhale it all the way out. All right, so close your eyes. Hands can be wherever they need to be. Take a breath in and a breath out. A breath in and a breath out. Breath in, breath out. Nicely done. Opening up your eyes. Slowly move one block out, then the other. You can also use towels too. If you don't have a block, you roll towels up. All right. Slowly help your leg come out. You can just use it together. Bring your feet about hip distance apart, and maybe you rock side to side. All right, other side. You have to do the same on the other side to be as balanced as possible or as symmetrical as possible, even though we're not symmetric beings. All right, bring that left leg across this time. And notice how I'm using my hand to lift my leg up and gently and slowly move it there to find out where that spot is, right? So I am a little bit more open on my one side than my left side than I am on my right. So for me, I'm not going to be using the blocks this round. Feel free to do so. Every day is different. All right, you can place maybe your hands on either side, or you can rest your hands on your thighs, but think ribs stacked over the hips, both sit bones down on the earth, and we are breathing. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Another big breath in. And breath out. Nice. Open up your eyes. Take your hands, hold onto the knee and the foot, and undo. I'm actually just going to cross my legs and come into a seat and just take a moment to notice one side over the other. Feels so good. Take a big breath in through the nose. You're going to open your mouth and you're going to let it go. Beautiful. All right, so we've taken care of the front, this side, inside. Now I wanted to take a little care of the lower back and around the hip joints here. I am not naturally a flexible person. And what I've learned, which was amazing, is you got your hip, it's called a ball and socket, your hip joint, and it just basically moves in the socket. Now, you could have a really deep socket. And that means what will happen is the bone of your legs is going to start knocking on here. And that limits your range of motion. That's bone on bone. It doesn't matter how flexible you are. If you got bone on bone, that's where you're going to be. The great thing about that is you do have this deep insertion of your femur into the socket. So that's really well protected. And so chances are if you ever getting injuries there is probably going to be a little less than someone who's maybe more flexible. But what happens with them is that they ball and socket, they got more space in the leg, they got more range of motion where the bone doesn't hit bone on bone, so they can move around more. But the issue with that is that can go too far, or the connective tissue that holds the joints and the bone in place can get overstretched. So for people who are super flexible, slightly bend your knees a little, and that's going to really activate the muscles, which will keep you more stable and strong, building strength and keeping your hips nice and stable. Okay, folding forward. You can do this with the legs open wide, legs together, any folding forward. You really want to get not have this rounding in your lower back. But I have this bone and bone issue. I also have tight hamstrings. I'm not super flexible. So I'm going to use what I have around me to find that little deeper stretch, get a little deeper into it. So I take my mat and I'm going to roll it. It's kind of a new mat, so it's not as much give. And we roll it right here. And then I'm going to take a seat on it. So the actual sit bones right on here. Okay. And you can do this when you're sitting up tall with your legs crossed. Legs forward, legs open. Doesn't really matter. All right, so I'm going to bring my legs forward so you can see this. So the sit bones are right down onto this mat. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tilt forward and get those sit bones to go slightly in front of that roll. Did you see how I went from a rounded back to a straight back? Right. I can straighten out my legs now. I'm sitting up nice and tall. So instead of starting with a rounded spine tightness, I now can stand nice and tall. If my hamstrings were even a little tighter, today they're feeling a bit better, I can lift on up. Remember, my right one's not feeling that great, so I am going to keep my knees bent. But maybe you can bring your feet all the way down, but I'll keep them nice and bent. You're going to reach your arms all the way up. Take a big breath in here, hug belly button and find length. And then you fold it forward. Now you can bring your hands on either side, hold onto the foot, to the shins. You can even take a block and you can even add more if you need a little bit more. You can do that. And we're just finding that lengthening of the spine, and then you can fold forward. Beautiful. I'm just going to breathe here. Feeling that stretch in that lower back feels so good. Needs to feel good. If sharp pain, back out of it, right? All right. Another full breath in here. And then slowly, let's release. I want to move the blocks out the way and slowly come all the way up. Then I'm going to bring the soles of my feet to touch. Come into that Supta Baddha Konasana. Same thing here. Tilting that pelvis floor. See how my back is so straight now? Sitting up nice and tall. And then you can fold it forward here too. Now, if you want to get a little bit more into the upper back and the neck, then what you'll do is you can round in the upper back, drop down, bring your chin to your chest, and the gravity will pull down and get a little bit more in the upper back. But if you want to get a little bit more in the lower back and the outer hips, keep that back nice and straight, then collarbone forward, and you fold forward. Slowly come on up. I'm going to show you one more variation, and that's when you bring your legs out. See, again, my back is straight. If I didn't have this, I'm going to show you without this, so you can see that My lower back then rounds when I go forward. It can kind of do this little, because it's super tight here. So you can come all the way up and then just find your spot where you feel like that's where my back goes straight. And then maybe even take a block and you can chill and hang out here for a bit. And just breathe. Inhale. And exhale. You're going to breathe in. And breathe out. Okay, maybe open up your eyes, come all the way up. Let's bring those legs together and we're just gonna shake them out a little. And then maybe come into whatever seat feels good for you. And closing your eyes. Again, we're gonna stack the ribs over the hips, sitting up nice and tall. Your chin isn't up or down, but just like neutral. And softening your shoulders away from the ears. And just take a moment to notice the left hip joint. Then move your awareness over to the right hip joint. Just taking these moments to just notice the sensations that came up for you. And then maybe over time you'll start noticing if there's any sensations with regards to your emotions. It might be a release, going from stress, worried, to being free and at ease. It might not, and that is okay too. There is no right or wrong. This is who you are on your mat at this moment. And every day is different. One thing that yoga has taught me is that I am okay exactly where I am at this moment. I am enough. I don't need to go into the deepest pose or have the most flexibility or the most strength to still be strong, to still be present, to be focused, and to be enough. Circle, sweep your arms all the way up to the sky. Take a big breath in here. Bring your hands to your heart center. Exhale it out. Please bring your hands in prayer, thumb touching your forehead. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.